screen starts glowing, and the film starts rolling. You wanna be knowing what you might be in for. So give the show a listen and find out what you're missing. Put yourself in position for the is a good score.
Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of The Goods, a film podcast. Listeners, you might have just heard us discuss Peter Pan in the episode that complements what we are doing tonight, because now we're doing something a little different, something we've never done before, and something I'm very excited about. We are going to do a draft, and we have two guests on who have never been on the podcast before, never been on The Goods before. We also, of course, have Brian with us. How you doing, Brian?
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
And our two guests are two people that I have met in various movie discussion and fan forums. In fact, both of them through the website Alternate Ending, which is run by a big Disney head named Tim Brayton, a terrific critic. And so I think it's appropriate that he is who brought us together here, because we're going to be talking Disney songs. And the two guests that we have are Riognach and Zev. So Zev, why don't you introduce yourself first? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Zev, and how we met.
Hi, I'm Zev. I'm a composer and sometimes lyricist for stage and screen. And we met, and Dan and I met through Alternate Ending on Discord. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Brian, for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I'm glad we have a composer on this music-related draft. Should be fun.
We have two.
That's true. That's right, because Riognach is a musician as well. I've listened to her music before. And the other guest that we have is Riognach Robinson. Is that your last name? Is that right?
It is.
So why don't you introduce yourself, Riognach?
Hi, I'm Riognach Robinson. I am an author and musician. I write novels under the pen name Riley Redgate, and yeah, I am very excited to be here with y'all.
In addition to talking about movies, Riognach and I are in a book club and also a writing club, or writer's workshop, I guess.
Many clubs proliferate on Discord.
I guess so, yeah. It's the new, I don't know, social something where we break out into groups there.
Social forum, yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. Y'all are music pros. So I'm excited to pick your brains a little bit.
So the activity that we have planned for tonight is a Disney song draft. And so there's a few pieces there we got to talk through. So one is, what is a Disney song? So for the context of tonight's activity, we are talking about songs that are included in the Walt Disney Animation Studios canonical films, of which there's like 63 now or something like that. Is Wish still the latest one?
Yeah, I think it's still 62 until Moana 2 drops.
Okay, 62. We had disagreements on this when we talked Snow White. You're probably right though.
Yeah, it's just because the list I was saying it wrong. I was saying 63 because the Letterboxd list I was looking at already had Moana 2 on there.
Okay.
And Moana 2 has not come out. That's why I was saying 63, you were saying 62.
Okay, 62.
Dan, I love on the Spotify link that you said that for some of the movies, you gave us the entire Legacy Collection albums, so that for the longest time, Disney would not release the full instrumental scores, but beginning, I think, in 2014 with The Lion King, they started doing full scores, like the parts that were not originally on the album. So I like that you have that resource in there. So if you ever do a Disney Scores episode, now you have more material to draw from.
That's really good to know. Zev, especially, I feel like I'm going to need to talk with you a little off-pod after we're done here tonight. But
anytime.
Just know that I am including an instrumental piece in one of my selections provided it doesn't get dibs by somebody else. So if you want to do that, I'm open to that.
I will include as many as I can, as I'm allowed.
And we are going to be drafting songs from Walt Disney Animation Studios into 11 categories. So 4 of us, 11 categories, a total of 44 songs are going to be drafted tonight. And so when we all signed on, Riognach said, "Hey, I got a question. What's a draft?" It's like, okay, well, I'm glad you're participating here. No, I'm just teasing. But so you're not a big sports fan, Riognach?
Unfortunately, I like them, but I don't follow them.
You don't do fantasy sports, I take it?
I don't.
Fantasy football? No. Yeah.
No.
What about you, Zev? Are you a fantasy football guy?
No, the closest I came to sports, I played baseball when I was younger. And I think the fact that I'm a Mets fan is why I lost interest in baseball.
And I'm at a place where I kind of know what is a draft, less of a sense why is a draft. Or in this case, who is going to evaluate the drafts that we end up making? How does this get put to the test, Dan?
Very good question. Good questions all around. So a draft is in the spirit of, okay, in a professional sports, every year you draft onto your team rookies usually from college, from amateur. And then it's exciting because the way it works is there's a pool of things that you can pick from. And then the teams take turns picking from that pool. In that case, it's players. So like, oh, who's going to be the first player drafted? Oh, this year it was quarterback Caleb Williams. Who's going to be the second player drafted? So it kind of becomes like a game in itself, even though it's for the purposes of another game. Like the draft itself is like a gamified version of collecting assets, basically.
Asset collection, what we all love the most about sports.
So a couple other things on drafts. So once something is taken, it can no longer be taken by anyone else. So even in the different categories, it can't be taken. So like, I don't know, what was the name of the Wish song with the really dumb lyric?
Oh my God, all of them. You're a star. That's the one.
Okay, so let's say that Riognach took You're a Star in one category.
How dare you cast such aspersions upon my character?
But that would mean I couldn't take it, even if I wanted to. So you would be blocking me out in this hypothetical.
This is the thanks that Disney gets.
A couple other rules. So at the risk of overcomplicating it, and now I'm worried that I've overcomplicated it because we don't have any draft enthusiasts here. So typically in fantasy drafts, so when you do fantasy sports, it's just like people like us who like put together a team and get points based on how real life athletes do. When you draft, you do what's called snake order. So what does snake order mean? Just as a snake kind of winds, so the draft order. And the idea is like, if you're the first person picking, it wouldn't really be fair if you picked first every single round, because then you would always be getting the first choice, hypothetically. But if you mirrored the order every other round, so the first round, we go order 1, 2, 3, 4, but the second round, we go 4, 3, 2, 1, and the third round, we're back to 1, 2, 3, 4. What will happen is everyone will get the same overall average pick within a round. Everybody will get on average the middle of the round, because if you're the first and the last, well, it averages out to the middle. If you're the last and the first, it averages out to the middle. And if you're in the middle the whole time, yeah, you're still in the middle. So we can try this. Hopefully it's not too conceptually confusing for you guys. I have a chart that we can put it all together.
Yeah, I'm ready to trust the process.
Okay, good.
Love a good chart.
You just stay in charge of it.
And okay, we picked songs. And then the question is, so, okay, we have these songs drafted. We got our own roster, a super roster of music we love. Who wins? And to that I say, we're all winners. The activity in itself is a game. It's an intellectual exercise. We feel good that we've done it. But I am going to solicit votes from various film forums that I'm in, and I might reach out on a website and email a few people I know. I'm hoping we get at least 10 or 15 people to vote, and I think I'm going to ask them to basically either choose a winner or maybe like rank the 4 or something like that. I don't know. But then the end result will be based on the votes. We can say, hey, this person did the best. That's the result. That's the winner. So.
Well, I can't imagine anyone on the alternate ending Discord who would care too much about Disney songs and would vote on such a thing. So it'd be really tough.
Yeah, to get opinions about Disney. That's not something that's easy to do on movie forums online, especially alternate ending.
Yeah, that is not a safe space for Disney opinions.
This isn't really how a true fantasy draft would go, but for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of, I guess, a cohesive conversation, what we're going to do is we're going to go category by category and each pick our song within the category while still maintaining the snake order that I talked about. So whoever goes first in the first round will go last in the next round. All right, so here are the 11 categories that we are picking from. Opener, which I have defined as a song that comes at or very near the beginning of a film. And I think there's part of the fun is like, does a song qualify for a category as we go? You know, there's a couple that I think are very up for debate. Category 2, villain song. Song centrally about an antagonist, sung by or about the villain. Third category is side character song. Song centrally about a side character, sung by or about the side character. I Want. I don't think I need to introduce an I Want, but Wikipedia defined it as a song by a protagonist about wanting or striving for change in their life. Then next we'll do a romance song about two characters falling in love. Then we'll do a category that I have called oddity, and this is intentionally a bit open-ended. I have defined it as such: something weird, a ditty, a jingle, a cover, nonsense words, problematic lyrics, etc. So I'll be very curious what you all end up picking for that one. Then we have duet or ensemble, a song with two or more main singers. And then we're going to have 4 wildcard categories, which is where out of everything that's left, now it's just a free-for-all. Just choose the song you love the most. First wildcard is pre-1960. Second wildcard is 1960 to 2000. Third wild card is post 2000. So we kind of have the 3 approximately eras, I guess, arguable. And then the very last wild card category is just to take us out of our Walt Disney Animation Studio comfort zone, talk about something that opens up the universe a little bit more. Sometimes when people say Disney songs, they expand it beyond just the Walt Disney Animation Studio. So for the very last wild card, we'll be choosing a non-Walt Disney Animation Studio Disney song. This is the only category in which we can select a non-Walt Disney Animation Studio film, but it must be from a non-Walt Disney Animation Studio Disney film. So live action Disney, Pixar, Disney Channel original movie. I think Disney is such a monolith now that there's probably more things here than can even fathom, but I am hoping the ones you guys will pick will be like originally Disney. But I don't know. You know what? You can make a case for whatever you want to make a case for in that category when we get there.
So technically, Anastasia, because you can find it on Disney Plus, does count. Is that?
That changes everything.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, we're just going Anastasia.
4 Anastasia songs off the board. Round 11. And I did send a Spotify playlist to everyone. I wish I could take credit for that Spotify playlist. I just found it and sent it out to you guys. So hopefully you found that useful. I'm going to randomize the order. This will tell us who is picking when. And here we go. Picking first is Brian.
All right, and we're beginning with the opener category. Is that correct?
Yep, but don't pick yet. Next is Riognach, so you will be picking second. Third is Dan, that's me. Last, or also first sometimes, is Zev. So there we go. All right, opener. So, Brian, tell us what opener you are picking for your Disney song draft.
Well, I got lucky. I got first of the first, so nobody has dibsed it yet. I'm going to go with Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Good, extended, Broadway-style opener, introduces all the characters in their world. You get kind of a reprise that also doubles as the I Want. So really just laying a lot of groundwork in this song. A lot of great rhymes. And a lot of business from ensemble characters, too. So just like a double, triple whammy of a classic Disney Renaissance song.
Great choice, Brian. I am really feeling very lucky right now because that was my narrow second choice. So I get to pick my first choice, which was Bells of Notre Dame. Checks, I think, a lot of the same boxes that yours does. It really, really sets the environment. Like, even if you're not watching the movie, like the music just paints such a vivid picture and then rises to, I think, the most climactic and incredible musical crescendo of, I think, any Disney cue. Yeah.
So I am increasingly open to the idea that Belle is not just the best Disney opener, but like the best song from any Walt Disney Animation Studio. So I'm extremely bummed I didn't get to pick that. That definitely would have been my choice.
Bells of Notre Dame was my second.
Seems like that's pretty high for both of us. So I'm going to make this pick, and you guys can tell me if it happens too late in the movie to be an opener. And that is When You Wish Upon a Star.
I had it in mind as well.
Okay.
In my list. I think
that's an opener?
I think it counts.
Yeah.
Zev, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely
okay.
Counts as the opener.
So I'm going to pick When You Wish Upon a Star. I mean, it's from one of the great Disney movies. Second Disney movie, right? Pinocchio was number 2. And has become Disney's unofficial anthem. I mean, those opening 7 notes or however many notes it is, are about as recognizable as any opening handful of notes from any song you've ever heard. Just a really stirring song, really beautiful, really iconic. And I'm glad to have landed it. All right, Zev, to you.
3 absolutely amazing picks. Obviously, I think Belle is... I mean, Beauty and the Beast is probably my favorite Disney film, and I think Belle probably does things that very few other Disney songs in general, and much less openers, achieve. So, so for this one, I'm going to go with Circle of Life from The Lion King, because it does something that I don't think any of the others do. It does everything without a single word of dialogue. And I think if looking behind the scenes a little bit, they were originally going to have some dialogue. I think Zazu had some lines in it, but once they heard Lebo M's vocal tracks and what Hans Zimmer and Mark Mancina had produced it to be, I think that they just went fully in and just saying no dialogue. Let's just let this song carry our opening right up to the title crawl. And some political undercurrents that Tim and others have talked about, but in terms of just an experience, I don't think there's anything else quite like it ever. But.
It's funny, until you just said that, it didn't even occur to me that there are so many constant dialogue interjections in all the 3 that we listed. Like, I don't think of them as being carried or supported even heavily by dialogue, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, yeah, so much.
And that's not a slight on any of the other 3 songs. It's just something that that Circle of Life just kind of manages to do without, but it kind of such a magical way that you don't even really think about it.
I love how in Circle of Life you've got all the different scales of movement, like the elephants and the turkey grouse birds running around between their legs, and then you focus onto the little branch and you got the ants queuing along.
And in Circle of Life you have that wonderful little instrumental interlude where it's just, I think it's being played on some type of flute, and where Rafiki is breaking open his gourd to paint the little thing on Simba. Really, really beautiful melody. I'm not sure if that was Elton John's or whether that's Hans Zimmer's, but just adds, I think, an incredible amount there.
I feel like we nailed it on our first 4 picks.
Yeah, y'all, I had all four of those in my top five. So
Yeah, I don't know about y'all, but like there was just a couple categories where I had a long short list. And then there's a few other categories where I have like two because I don't think I'm going to get competition for them, but we'll see.
On to the second category, which is villain song. And we will be doing the opposite order. Zev will be going first.
So, villain song, yeah, I think is probably maybe the toughest category because in a lot of scenarios, villain songs are kind of why people and villains in general are probably the big reasons why people love Disney movies because they just do one-dimensional villains better than practically any other animation studio, and their songs kind of help sell that. And I don't mean one-dimensional as a slight, but this is very tough. I think when I want to talk about Disney musical numbers, I'm also thinking about the scene for which it's attached to, like the visual presentation. So one song that I've been thinking quite a lot about, this is going to be maybe a little, I don't know about off-brand, but I'm going to go with Poor Unfortunate Souls from The Little Mermaid, written by Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, because I think it's just such a great song of temptation. It really is. Little Mermaid, much like their previous collaboration, Little Shop of Horrors, there is this sort of Faustian element to Ariel signing away her, essentially her soul to Ursula, in the same way that Seymour sells his soul to the plant for the big time. And I think the song is really hypnotic. It's very seductive. There are so many great lyrics in it by Howard Ashman. And I just think I just get such a blast. I just have such a blast watching it each time, especially when it ramps up. If you want to cross a bridge, my sweet, you've got to pay the toll. That section in particular, where it just ramps up, and there's just a series of quick shots. This poor on for, and as Ariel signs away. It's awesome. I love Poor Unfortunate Souls.
Great pick. Thank you, Zev. It's funny that you mention Ashman Menken because for next episode, me and Brian are actually talking about Little Shop of Horrors, both versions of it, in honor of Roger Corman passing. So now it's on to me. And usually when you think of Disney villain, you think of like evil imagery, Nazi imagery, intimidation, like a sense of just darkness coming off of it. But I think my favorite, which is not necessarily to say the best, but my favorite Disney villain song is like extremely funny. And that is Gaston, which is one of the most quotable of all Disney songs. I'm especially good at expectorating. Whenever anybody's eating a lot of eggs, I'm always thinking of Gaston. How many times in my life am I coming across people eating a lot of eggs? I don't actually know. But even just eggs in general, I'm thinking about Gaston. Antlers and all of his decorating. I mean, you want to talk about great Ashman lyrics. There's just a tapestry of language in Gaston. And it really tells you who Gaston is in just such a unique way. I like him as a villain in general, how he's like this. He just becomes kind of more evil. Like he seems like he's the pretty nice guy and would be in most stories. And then he just comes across as more shallow and crass as the movie goes. And then that song is just a beautiful thing. So I am picking Gaston for my...
such a bop. Great pick. And Poor Unfortunate Souls as well. One thing that is so great about Disney villain songs is that they always have like an element of relish to them that I think a lot of other songs don't really engage in. Like the I Want songs are always full of yearning, but like the villain songs, they love to be evil in the way that they are evil. I'm entrapped in a little bit of a hard place here right now because I had Hellfire as like a strong number two, but I also didn't think I would get to pick Bells of Notre Dame. And I don't want to just only have, I want to have a spread. I don't want to lock myself 100% into Hunchback, even though Hunchback is the GOAT.
No pun intended.
Also, yes. Amazing. I have Be Prepared on my list as well. I'm considering that strong Nazi imagery. Definitely a lot of gleeful relish in that song. But You know what? I'm actually gonna pick a weird. I'm gonna do a weird left turn. I'm gonna pick Mother Knows Best Reprise.
So good.
Actually, if I'm allowed to pick the pair of them together, I would like to pick the pair of those songs together because I think what I like about those and what I think makes them unusual is that there's not very much relish there. Like, she is this character, the Mother Gothel character, is so manipulative and she is so like just the amount of like emotional destruction that she engages in with the Rapunzel character is like deeply disturbing to me. Like, you know, she's not content to just be like, I want power, ha ha ha, here's how I get it. Like she like rips apart this girl's self-esteem like brick by brick. And the my kind of hesitation on just picking the main one is that it doesn't have like the epic finale, but the reprise has the epic finale. And so, yes, I'm going to go with a consolidation of those two for my villain song pick.
I think that's kosher to take them both. And I think that's a great pick, too.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that we're all on pretty similar pages because literally my short list for villains was, and I'm reading here, number 1, Poor Unfortunate Souls. Number 2, Gaston. Number 3, Hellfire, which is what you said. What I thought you were going to claim. You didn't, so I'm going to claim that. I am glad to have somebody here who loves Hunchback. I love Hunchback.
Yes.
And so I'm going to dibs that one. Just one that gets really darker than your standard Disney fare.
Go with God.
The condemnation of the soul due to lust.
Classic Disney topics. In every single movie, it's like, the sins of the flesh. Can't help it.
And I would want to add what's really terrifying about Hellfire is the fact that Frollo at no point thinks that he's the villain in all of this. So, you know, whereas the rest of these characters, I think Mother Gothel to a little bit of an extent, they're aware of just how much fun they're having being devious. Frollo, and that's probably the thing that helps really sell Hellfire, is the fact that he does not think he is in the wrong at any point.
I'm glad we got some Hunchback heads here. It warms my heart. Not with Hellfire, with normal Fire of Love. All right, so now we're into our fourth category, which is side character song. I think this is interesting category because I see it as one of the more subjective, because every character is singing from their own viewpoint. But is that really about that character? I think we might have to make our cases here, and we might not have to make our cases here. Maybe it'll be obvious. But I'll hand it over to Brian. What is your side character song? And listeners, I think we're going to we're kind of figuring out what we're going to do order-wise now. We're gonna stick with the original categories, but I think in order to make sure everybody gets to pick first at least once on kind of a rotating basis, we're just going to mix up the orders a little bit here. So you don't need to worry too much about it, but at the end, you'll see the songs that we picked. So for round 3, we'll have side character songs, and we're going to have Riognach go first on this one.
Sweet. I'm excited. So I want to be honest here. I don't want to engage in the most appalling case of category fraud in history, but I'm also like, is Let It Go from Frozen a side character song?
Ooh.
Just putting that out there.
That feels like category fraud to me, I gotta say.
I think it is a little bit category fraud because like, I think, you know, Anna is the main character, but it is about the sister relationship. So I think it wouldn't be totally fair.
Well, I just wanted to, what do you think, Brian?
I would say that's arguably a villain song, although obviously hard to argue one way or the other because that they were trying to kind of break the mold with that one.
The villain song.
I think it's probably closer to being a side character song than a villain song, just because they never follow through with Elsa becoming the secondary protagonist. I don't think.
Interesting. I thought it was textbook I Want, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that. So, because I guess you're right that she's not really the protagonist. She's like the secondary.
I think For the First Time in Forever would probably function better as the I
Interesting.
Want.
Yeah. So the movie already has an I Want song. It is kind of like a little bit where the first verse is a little I Want, and then after she actually does it, it stops being an I Want song and starts being an I Already Have song.
Right. What I would really call it is the act break song.
Yes.
It's defying gravity. So much of it is like reskinned Wicked.
Yes, it literally is just defying gravity, but snow themed. I think in the interest of honesty, I will put to the side. Let's see. So my other picks here are I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan, Prince Ali from Aladdin, Remember Me from Coco, and Under the Sea. All jams, I think. I think I'll go with, well, see, this is going to get tough because I know I'm going to be last in the next round. So if I don't get to pick one of these, I don't want to pick Under the Sea just because I'm assuming I won't get part of your world next category. So it's tough. I think.
If this makes it easier, Remember Me is not a Walt Disney Animation Studio song. It is a Pixar song.
Oh, you're so right. I have to shuffle that. Okay. It does make it easier. In fact, what a great song. I'm gonna do Mulan. I'll Make a Man Out of You. I think it's fun. I love the snare drum opening. I love that military introduction. I love the little cutaways to the side characters. And I love how the song serves as a fun and visually stylish time lapse through the training montage. Um, so, from at the beginning, they're extremely useless. And then at the end, Mulan has undergone her epic training montage and is now an awesome warrior. Yeah, I love that song.
I had this one on the fringes of qualifying, but I think this is not category fraud. I think it's certainly because it's like really about what's the general's name?
Shang.
Because you're really like getting his viewpoint. Yeah. It's from his viewpoint. And you do get info about all of the side characters, both visually and they all have lines in there and stuff. So I'm absolutely fine with that. And absolutely, all-time banger. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to go maybe a little canonical here. I'm going to go with Hi-Ho from Seven Dwarfs. Just including, I assume, like the we dig, 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 dig opening section that kind of leads into Hi-Ho. Because it's really, really catchy. And it's just... obviously this would be a great pick on ensemble too, because they do really interesting stuff with them all singing together. And it's just iconic and a really kind of great way to meet these dwarfs who in many ways are like some of the faces of what a Disney movie became, like the cartoonishness, but also expressiveness of the dwarfs kind of carrying through as a theme of it. So I just think it's an absolutely terrific song. If I had gone third and someone had taken Hi-Ho, I had another song like right on the edge of it, but that's what I'm going to go with. Zev, over to you.
I am so thankful that neither one of you chose this. So I'm going to have to, if we're talking side character songs, I have to say Under the Sea came incredibly, incredibly close. But I don't know if there's a side character song in Disney, and there are very few other Disney songs that I probably listen to more than Friend Like Me from Aladdin, written by Howard Ashman and Alan Menken. And so they had originally envisioned the genie as a Fats Waller or Cab Calloway figure. But once they got Robin Williams in there, the character changed. And you can just see, because Aladdin is probably, in terms of sheer energy, it's probably probably is the punchiest of all of them, especially when Robin Williams enters the movie. And it is the song that kind of sells Aladdin on this idea, because he's overwhelmed at first. He's like, what is going on? I must be dreaming. And the genie sings this song to get him firmly convinced that this genie is here to help him. And you can hear that once you get Robin Williams behind the vocal mic, you can just feel the animators just so excited to animate to his voice. Like you just kill for a voice like that. And I think the wordplay by Ashman, I think it's one of their best tunes. And this incredible big band jazz arrangement by Danny True really helps to sell it as well.
Great pick.
Yeah. I had Friend Like Me at number 1. I'm surprised it took till round 3. But it's a great one. As for my selection, another good one that nobody said yet, I would throw Bare Necessities into the discussion from Jungle Book. But the one that I want to pick is The Most Wonderful Thing About Tiggers. Just a side character song, very, very much about the side character. And then later it would be the springboard into the like existential crisis movie of the Tigger movie.
I haven't seen Tigger movie.
He's grappling with, is that really the most wonderful thing?
Oh man, you know what? There's a lot of good ones. Because nobody even said the one that I was my number 2 or my number 3.
What was it?
Well, I guess I can say them. Hakuna Matata and Be Our Guest. Neither was picked.
Oh, yeah.
So on to round 4, which is the I Want song. And I didn't plan it this way, but the order rejiggering worked out in my favor. I mean, you know, there's like maybe like 4 songs that you can make a case as like the greatest Disney song ever made. And one of them is obviously Part of Your World. And so I'm, of course, picking that. I do have another one that I have just right on its heels that I'm sad I won't pick, but I will probably shout out. And if it's landed for me in the wild card section, I might end up still picking. But I mean, Part of Your World, just absolutely heart-rendingly beautiful, astonishing song by Ashman and Menken, sung by Jodie Benson. I love there's this video on YouTube of Ashman coaching Jodie Benson as she's like learning the song, and it's just so touching. I don't know if it was in the Ashman documentary that came out recently, but I mean, for me, it's got some of the most beautiful turns of phrase. It's got a terrific vocal performance, and it really just captures that sense of longing, of not quite belonging, and wanting more. It is I want. That is what the song is, and she wants more. That's the key line, you know. And then like when she's like swimming up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun, it's just like a transcendent moment of cinema for me. So Part of Your World. Zev, you get the second pick.
Well, if you get the chance to get Part of Your World, you don't give it to somebody else. So I totally get it. Yeah, part of Your World is probably the obvious choice for I Want, but we do have another I Want song that is as earnest, as sincere, basically as beautiful as Part of Your World, written by Ellen Menken and Stephen Schwartz out there from Hunchback of Notre Dame. We have this after this sort of dark-ish beginning with Frollo just putting Quasimodo down in just such an awful way. We have these moments with Quasimodo just by himself, and it really feels like he's singing as much to the heavens as Ariel is in Part of Your World. And we also get in the sequence, we get some wonderful, wonderful camera movements, like when he's up there and he's just like sliding down. That sequence and that song just takes my breath away every time I hear it. Beautiful, beautiful song.
Terrific pick. Brian.
Man, I really want it out there. Okay, so I'm shuffling down my list because number 2 is Part of Your World, but what I am going to select is Go the Distance from Hercules, which he's longing for his place in the sun. His dream is to realize his destiny of being a hero.
It's a great one.
Amazing song.
Hercules is, we did our top 5 Disney Animation Studios with Hunter Allen, who's in the alternate ending community, but he does it more on the comments of the site. He's not actually on the Discord. And he also runs his own review site, which is terrific. And one thing I contended when we did our top 5 is that everyone needs to have like a weird Disney movie that you think is like one of the best, that nobody else thinks is like one of the top 4 or 5 or whatever. And for me, that one is Hercules. I had Hercules at number 5 on my list. I just love Hercules so much and everything about it. So I'm all on board with Go the Distance. What's your weird movie that you think is the best, Riognach?
Oh, The Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, nice. Very good.
It's Actually, my favorite movie ever made.
Oh, so,
Wow.
that's good.
Casablanca, never heard of her.
Solid. My pick is Wreck-It Ralph. What about you, Zev?
Three Caballeros. Three Caballeros. Whatever substances they were on in the 40s making that.
It's probably just the lead paint.
Probably.
To me, what is boldest about the Three Caballeros is they decided that the movie they made a year ago, they were going to remake it, but twice as long and 5 times as horny.
I mean, honestly, that's not the worst remake pattern if you're going to you're like, I want to make a movie. Let's choose something not too long ago, but make it freaking weird. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Donald Duck flying around on a serape, chasing after Latinas.
All right, Riognach.
Yes, I want, right? So, you guys nabbed 3 of my top 5, of course. I love Go the Distance. I think it's pretty underrated, so I'm actually really glad it got picked. I think it suffers a little bit from having like a long break in the middle of the song. It kind of loses that momentum going into the big finish, but when he has that like right where I belong at the very end, it's like really, really good. So I'm kind of torn between 2. I'm torn between Reflection from Mulan, which I think is like, no, that kind of introspection I think is a little bit unusual for these I Want songs because it's not so much that she wants her circumstances to change so much, it's that she wants to feel that she's like that herself is just kind of recontextualized by the world around her, which I think is fun and deep and meaningful. But unfortunately for Reflection, Belle Reprise exists, and I am going to pick Belle Reprise, even though it is like a minute and a half, because within that like short period, there's so much amazing the swelling strings right before I Want Adventure in the Great Wide Somewhere is just so prime. Like I cannot let it go. So yes, Tiny Little Belle Reprise will be my I Want song.
Nice. I didn't know if it counted if that was on the board because Brian had already picked Belle as his opener. Like, did that suck in all of the reprises? But you know what? I think the Belle Reprise is good enough. It can stand on its own. And even if it's a little bit of a double dip, I think it's a fair pick. I think it's a good one.
It's one of those rare reprises that people tend to look at as its own separate song and love almost as much as the main song. So, I think it's a great pick. I think it's a wonderful pick.
Yeah. It's like anthologized in a musical theater book that I have for like teen singers, and it's just in there by itself, which I think says a lot about the quality of the piece, especially because it's, so small. All right, what is next?
The next category is romance. And another one where there was a couple of ones I looked at and I was scratching my chin on whether or not they qualified. So I'll be interested to hear what songs people end up picking, whether they're all like very obviously romance or whether we have to stretch on this. But Zev, you get the privileges of going first in the romance category.
Well, I've mostly stuck to the Disney Renaissance right now. So let's go back. Let's go back to 1955 to a wonderful scene outside Tony's restaurant, Bella Notte, Lady and the Tramp. It's literally the image of them just sharing that little thing of spaghetti and then him sort of nodding the meatball in her direction. If you're not in love with that, like I have questions for you. And I think that scene was animated entirely by Frank Thomas. I think he did that entire scene by himself, and it just kind of shows what a master of facial expressions he was. And I think, I just think that every time I see it, it's so there's some parts of it that are so unbelievably corny, but I love every corny bit of it. So
very nice. We were just talking the 9 Old Men. We discussed Peter Pan in preparation for this episode. We always like to talk about a movie whenever we do like a fun thing on the side. So, and we were talking, Peter Pan was the last one to have all of the 9 Old Men, but yeah, nice pick. All right, Brian, you get to go second.
Okay, I am going to pick I See the Light from Tangled. The art design in this is great. It's the scene with the lanterns. and they're like out on a pond in a little boat. So there's the reflection of the water also, just really cool use of light and reflection. And it's romantic. So that's my pick.
Underrated.
Amazing.
If my top, that was number 4 on my list. So I think there was a universe where I was going to pick that, but
Hey, it was number 4 on my list too.
wow.
The score cue that plays right before I See the Light is also like amazing. I think it's called Waiting for the Lights.
I think it's interesting. The one thing they do now that they often didn't do in the Renaissance era is have the voice actors also be the singers, which usually results in either slightly uneven singing or slightly uneven vocal performances. In my opinion, I think some of that's subjective, but Mandy Moore, I think, just nailed both of them. I mean, obviously, she's a remarkable singer. And man, she's so good in that song. And Zachary Levi holds his own, I got to say.
Yeah, those two leads are so emotive in their singing as well as their acting. Like, yeah, she brings so much, and she makes it look easy as well. Like When Will My Life Begin is like a shockingly difficult song to sing, and she just like darts all around it and makes it sound fun and exciting and wistful. It's just like turn of a dime, like making these changes. She's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's see. My top 3 are so far untouched, which was Beauty and the Beast, Once Upon a Dream, and A Whole New World. So, man, what an embarrassment of riches. I love all of those so much. I think I'll go with Once Upon a Dream because there's something kind of otherworldly about that song. Like I really like A Whole New World, but I think it feels very like the way it talks about emotions is very, I don't know, maybe like a bit too demonstrative, whereas like Once Upon a Dream, the melody and the mood of it it also feels like something that you heard in a dream one time that's like just out of reach. And I love that, how it kind of imprints onto the romance of these two. Yeah.
Very nice pick. I'm starting to get worried that my wild card pre-1960, we have hit like half of the ones that I had even shortlisted for that. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of great ones from that era, but if you had told me that I would pick last in the romance round and still land A Whole New World, I would have called you crazy. Honestly, if I'd had the first overall pick and we were doing like, you could choose any category first, like I probably wouldn't choose A Whole New World. I probably would have chosen Belle, but I would have thought about A Whole New World. I agree with what you said, Riognach, that it's like, it's kind of just a more generic radio ballad. I think it's absolutely soaring, lovely, beautiful radio ballad. There is something that's more generic and not like part of a musical about it. It doesn't have the quality of the best songs of musicals where it's like specific to the universe of that musical. And it's like, I think Howard Ashman originally did the lyrics for 2 Aladdin songs. And you know that this is not one of those songs because it's not the kind of song that Howard Ashman writes. It doesn't have some of that same pep to it. That said, my favorite vocalist in the history of Disney songs is Lea Salonga. And Brad Kane too does the male vocal part. They both deliver terrific performances. I just think this is absolutely beautiful, perfect song. I feel like there's a backlash in our community. The alternate ending isn't as wild about this as like the general Disney universe is. Like, I feel like you would often see A Whole New World listed as the best Disney song period outside of our bubble. But I don't know. I still think it's a great one, and that's what I'm going to be picking.
There's a thing, A Whole New World, that on the soundtrack, it starts, I think, with a piano thing, but in the movie it has this glorious like 15 or so second orchestral intro that was never on the soundtrack until the Legacy album. And on the Aladdin Legacy album, you can hear that by itself. And it is, this is one of the reasons why I encourage people to go seek out the Legacy Collection albums, is because
I gotta go listen to that now. That's really cool.
Oh God, I think it's on the track just before A Whole New World. I think it's Ali Comes Courting. It's the very end of that, and oh my God, and that really gets us into the mood of the song. I think more than the piano intro. as nice as the piano intro is.
Your depth of knowledge. Oh my God, you know so much about these scores, Zev. It's insane. Ah.
Yeah, and we're moving on to the oddity category where all of my list is instrumental bits.
Very cool. So the oddity bit, the oddity category, I'll just remind people because this is maybe the least obvious one. It's intentionally kind of open-ended. I wanted people to pick things that aren't like canonically great Disney songs that have something unusual or slight or weird about them. And I described it as such as a reminder. Something weird, a ditty, a jingle, a cover, nonsense words, problematic lyrics, etc. So I'll see where you all end up going with this. Brian, what is your oddity?
Okay, I didn't think I would have to fight anybody for this, and now I know I don't have to because I'm going first, but I am going to select March of the Cards from Alice in Wonderland, which, if you haven't heard it, you may not recognize it, obviously, but it is the piece that plays when she gets to the Queen of Hearts realm at the end of the movie and all the card soldiers come out. And it goes da na 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 ba na 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 na, and it gets like really fast and virtuosic, and a whole bunch of instruments play as they're doing this whole like marching band routine, and it goes on for a while. It's like more than a minute long of the cards marching around, and just all you're getting audio-wise is this instrumental piece.
Amazing.
I'm going to have to look that up because I cannot place it in my head, even hearing you hum it there, which is a nice humming job, Brian.
Same. Yeah, I want to look it up as well.
Riognach, on to you.
Yes. Okay, so I'm torn between my top two, which are Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo and Oodalali from Robin Hood. I think Robin Hood is such a fun little shaggy hangout movie. And when I think about it, this song is the one that I think about, even though I was listening to all of these, and I think the Oodalali song is a minute or less. It's like a right around that length. But it's something about it is very plaintive and sticks in my brain. I think I will go with that one. Yeah, Solly from Robin Hood. Very chill.
Well, I only had one song on my list for this category, and it was Oodalali. So now what do I do?
Oh, no.
No, I have a...
I'm so sorry, Dan.
That's okay. I'm glad that it got mentioned, and I'm glad that it got picked. I do have a couple other songs in mind. I just got to choose one. I guess I will choose Rumbly in My Tumbly from Winnie the Pooh, which is... I really love Winnie the Pooh. It's just like the essence of childhood to me. And the book is a masterpiece too. And this is just a little bit of whimsy of Winnie the Pooh singing about his rumbly tummy, but doing it with this cadence of words that feels like it's just a nonsense. It's parsable, but it's silly. So I'm going to go with Rumbly in My Tummy. I don't know officially what it's called, but you know the song. And because Oodalali was cruelly snatched from my grasp. Now, one thing about Oodalali is Brian talks a lot about like mixed CDs he makes. He still makes mixed CDs and plays them in his car. And I did that through college and a few years after college until I really adopted Spotify. But when I would do that, I had like a stretch of a couple of years where every mix CD I made, the last song on it was Oodalali. I don't know why. It was just like a weird tradition I had. It was like my little closer. So there you go.
I thought about Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, but I thought somebody else was going to take it. So I'm glad we're at least mentioning it. So it's not going to be my official pick. I thought seriously about the dwarf's yodel song in Snow White.
Oh, that's so good.
Very fun. However, there's one that I'm going to go. Another one that keeps coming back into my mind. Hi Diddle Dee Dee from Pinocchio, and I'll tell you why. Honest John comes off as such a charismatic. Honest John, voiced by Walt Disney. He comes off as such a charismatic figure that Pinocchio just like falls in love with. He just loves his image, and he's able to hoodwink Pinocchio into this, charming little song. And later, it's used again It's used first not only when he's convincing Pinocchio to join Stromboli's crew, but also after Pinocchio has escaped, he's caught again by Honest John, and he's swept away by the song to Pleasure Island. And the theme and the melody of Hi Diddle Dee Dee becomes sort of this recurring motif in the score, and you hear Lee Harleen making all these variations on it. And it becomes even more sinister and more diabolical than we thought. And if you rewatch Pinocchio, you'll hear that melody all throughout the Pleasure Island sequence, and you even hear Lampwick whistling it at some point right before the terrible thing happens to him. So I think Hi Diddle Dee Dee is so catchy, but it's also used in such a devious way that you don't really think about. But when you start thinking about it, it just gets into your subconscious.
Very good pick. I was wondering where that would go, and I think everybody got a good one. I'm glad that Brian got like an obscure Brian pick out there too. That always makes me happy.
Yeah, I have, again, several of these bits of instrumental, so I want to hear maybe at the end, Zev, if you have any recommendations of other instrumental pieces. Second for me was Prince John Arrives from Robin Hood, when the carriage comes in at the start and they rob it. Goes da na da na 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 da na 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 na. Yeah. So there's good stuff out there that doesn't have lyrics.
One song on my radar that I was thinking of for this category. Now, I haven't seen Fun and Fancy Free, so I could not in good conscience pick it. But there's a song from that called Say It With a Slap that, just based off the 2.5-minute clip, seems to literally be about bears smacking each other. And I think this seems very funny. Like, I need to see this in context. But yeah.
I did think about the Siamese cat song, which is, it's interesting. I sang that a bunch as a child, as a young Asian child, which I'm sure made some people feel weird. Anyway, I didn't pick it.
Nor did you pick What Makes the Red Man Red.
Oh, shocking. A song that, has so many redeeming qualities.
All right, round 7, duet or ensemble. And so this has, I would say, needs to have multiple main singers. It's a little bit up for debate, but one reminder, you can't choose a song that's already been picked for any of these, because now we're starting to hit categories that things from previously picked could fall in them, but once it's picked, it's off the board. You can't take a whole new world here because it's already in my collection.
So in theory, I couldn't potentially go back and say, for the romance category, I'm going to pick Beauty and the Beast, and for this category, switch Once Upon a Dream into it.
Sorry, can't be done.
I've shot myself in the foot with that one. Oh my God.
I have a couple. I'm looking back on mine. It's like, why did I take that there? Because I want it there.
Right, the benefit of hindsight. So my main thing here, I think I'm going to pick For the First Time in Forever, which I think is a really fun song, and it has like that very solemn Elsa interlude that like the tense strings in the background of the Elsa interlude, I think goes such a long way to differentiating the sisters' personalities, and I think the ending is very triumphant. I love that harmony that they hit, and I don't know, I think it's a great song. But this does mean that in my draft list will be the worst lyric in definitely all of Frozen, and maybe some of the surrounding years as well, which is can't tell if I'm elated or gassy, but I'm something in that zone, which is so humiliating to pick a song that has that line in it. Oh God, can I really do that to myself? I don't know if I can, actually.
Wow, you talked yourself out of it. I can't believe it.
I think I might have. It's such a stupid, bad line. Like, why, with all of the powers that they possessed to write an amazing song, did they do that to themselves? I think I'm gonna do I Won't Say I'm in Love from Hercules.
No, I was like, oh yes, I got it, and then you like double back
No,
second time
you
in a
didn't.
row.
I keep scooping you, Dan. I'm so sorry.
No, it's in the game, That's what it is. That's why we're here, to shatter each other's dreams.
Exactly, to break each other's hearts. Oops.
No, it's good. We're good. Okay. I can't pick Breaking Free from High School Musical because that's not Walt Disney Animation Studios. So I guess I'm going to pick, man, I had 3 songs on my list. I was like, one of them will get to me, and they've all been picked. Oh, you know what? Hakuna Matata is a duet, right? Okay, I'm gonna take Hakuna Matata. So I was gonna do another Lion King song, but I'll do Hakuna Matata because I think, yeah, terrific song. Did you know that that AFI picked it as one of the 100 greatest songs in movie history? Not Disney songs, but just of all songs. Which
What?
Yeah, some of those lists were kind of baffling, or some of those picks were kind of baffling. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's also a great side character song, and it's like what I like about it is it's just such an interesting contrast from everything else that's going on that like it totally shifts the narrative tone, but in a way that's like, I don't know, like it makes it feel like this more expansive story, even though it's kind of campy and whatever. It's got a joke about a fart in there or whatever. It's okay. It's a catchy song, and I think it's very catchy and very listenable, and I like how it kind of really brings us into this alternate world from where we spent the first 45 minutes or whatever of Lion King. And I just kind of had to rip that because I had not thought about picking this in that category. Alrighty, so you picked I Won't Say I'm in Love. By the way, one more thing on I Won't Say I'm in Love. One thing I love about it is, first of all, it's one of probably like the 5 songs I've most listened to out of all Disney songs, which is not to say one of the best, although I think it is one of the best. But I like that it's a duet, but one of the sides is just one person and the other side is a whole choir. It has this interesting element to it.
Yeah, it's so poppy, but in a way that feels like theatrical and cinematic as well. Like it doesn't just feel like pop song that got dropped into the middle of a movie, but it has such a strong like poppy sensibility. It's just a joy to listen to.
And what makes it so good for Hercules is like they're dealing with sort of like gospel-y styles, like R&B almost, like early R&B type stuff, like Motown-y, I guess. And that's like a girl group type song almost,
Mm-hmm.
All right, Zev.
On that note, Hakuna Matata sits at number 99 on the AFI Top 100 Songs, which
Still counts.
Snuck in
still
there.
counts. I have not picked something from my favorite Disney film yet. So there's 2 songs from Beauty and the Beast that I seriously considered. But I'm going to go with one that gets overlooked, but every time I think about it and every time I hear it in my brain, I want to go listen to it. And I'm talking about Something There. Yeah. There's just something that's so beautifully understated, but also very sweeping. As soon as, especially when Robbie Benson ends his part, but then she's never looked at me that way before, and it goes right back. It has that really nice woodwind passage before Paige O'Hara begins again. It was actually written way late in the game. They had another song called Human Again, which was set to be animated, but it spanned a lot of film times, and apparently, according to Gary Trousdale, they just cut it until they killed it. And apparently Howard Ashman was just like, fine, I'll write another song. And then he went and wrote Something There. And it's just, and the fact that he was able to just write something that perfect so quickly. And it just fits into the natural flow of Beauty and the Beast so well. And then we hear Jerry Orbach and David Ogden Stiers and Angela Lansbury pick it up for the remainder of the song. It's a really, really sweet number. I think of all the songs in Beauty and the Beast, that's the one that doesn't get the attention I think it deserves. But it does its job and more, I think.
Well, I had Hakuna Matata at number 1, Something There at number 2. So my number 3, I'm going to go with Savages from Pocahontas. The like culminating going into battle song sung by the 2 opposing sides where they're dehumanizing each other.
Brian, we're different. They're different, so it means you must be evil. I don't remember exactly what the lyric is, but that is one of my favorite heavy-handed lyrics in all of Disney.
They're different from us, which means they must be evil.
There you go. Good pick. All right, so we made it through what I would kind of consider the core categories now. So we have like a roster. Like you could make a movie out of the songs that we've picked for each one of our rosters. It fits a hole in a movie. It's like a sequence we have now. But here's where it gets fun is because obviously there's more great Disney songs that we haven't picked yet. There's more than we're even going to pick, but we have wild cards now. So this is where you can pick anything from a Walt Disney Animation Studio movie of a given time frame. And the first of these is pre-1960. I was about to pick a song from 1961, but wouldn't you know that 1961 is later than 1960, so I cannot do that. That would be from 101 Dalmatians, by the way. I had to look it up to confirm, but that's 1961, so I can't pick Cruella de Vil. So I will pick, I don't think this has been taken yet, A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes from Cinderella.
It's been taken.
Wait, I thought...
Wasn't it?
No, that was once.
Oh,
once
did you
Upon a
settle?
Dream.
Did you move on from that? Sorry, I thought Riognach
No, you...
picked that.
Oh, I did Once Upon a Dream.
Once Upon a Dream.
Different dream.
And what did you say?
Yeah.
A dream is a wish your heart makes?
I get those mixed up too, Brian.
My problem.
So
Sorry.
you're not the only one. That's why I was second guessing myself, because I was like, wait, is that the one that was taken? No, it's the other one.
No, I watched Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty on the same day, so blurs together.
So, I mean, that's probably my favorite number from Cinderella. Brian and I talked when we were talking about Peter Pan about how that kind of captures, in some ways, like the philosophy, the spirit of Disneyland. It's like a place you go to in Neverland, a place where you can always be a kid, even if you're a grown up, a place where there's always adventure for you to find and will take your heart away. Just like when you go to Neverland, you're leaving the earthly realm behind and going to some place where everything's a whimsical adventure. And I think in another way, A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes. It is also in some ways like emblematic of the Disney philosophy. It's like, it's all about the things that call to us in our inner hearts. That's what many Disney songs are about. That's why I want as a category for Disney songs is so many of them are essentially coming of age stories, about people who need to find some new, truer, self-actualized version of themselves that only lives on the inside until they achieve that. And A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes is just a lovely, sweet little ballad that kind of captures that essence. So that's my pick, Cinderella, 1950. All right, Zev, what about you? Any pre-1960 song?
I went back and forth a little bit, and then it just popped in my head, and I thought, how could I have... I almost forgot it, and I almost felt like a fool. What gets me sobbing harder than Baby Mine?
Oh, I thought about it too. Dumbo.
What I thought about Little April Showers. I thought about it very hard, and that came very close. But Baby Mine is like the sad. It's so sad. It's so sad. I'm sorry that I don't have much more to say about it. I think I'm going to go off camera for a minute.
It is a touching, weepy moment. Absolutely.
Yeah. True facts.
I think Tim says it's the saddest moment in all of Disney from his perspective.
I don't blame him.
All right, Brian, pre-1960.
Well, Zev had me sweating because I think we have pretty similar tastes. That's the vibe that I'm picking up, but he didn't claim it, so I'm going with Little April Shower. This is the sequence where they orchestrate a passing rainstorm. And it builds and then dissipates, and you get all the animals seeking shelter. And the animation is really beautiful, and you got these vocals and vocables building into like the natural world wrote onto an artificial medium. It's like the power of human creativity is capture the world in an artificial recreated environment.
Amazing. I'm so underwatched on like vintage Disney movies. I I'm like searching things to place where these songs are located in their respective movies.
I just rewatched Bambi for the first time since I was like a teenager this past year, and I was really socked in the jaw with it. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie, and
I think I've never seen it the entire way through. I think I've seen like bits and pieces here and there. Um,
it's worth it. It like feels like art in a way that sometimes even the great Disney movies don't always feel like art. Like it just feels like it's got this mythic sweep to it.
that was how I felt when I saw Pinocchio for the first time, which is actually just a few years ago. I was like, this is so painterly.
Mhm.
Like, I really like modern Disney, but it's not painterly. Anyway, I was so terrified. I was so sure that any of you guys were gonna pick what I'm gonna pick, but you didn't. Thank God. It was like the only thing on my list. I am picking The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Paul Dukas.
I didn't even think about that. That's such a good pick.
So of course this is from OG Fantasia. And man, I had the most amazing opportunity last August to go to the Hollywood Bowl and see like a Disney in concert series, and they did this live while the short screened, and it was so I love doing those sorts of events where you go and they show the movie, but the music is live. It just oh man, it was amazing. They gave a whole talk, and I wish I remembered the context, but basically it was about how the release of Fantasia breathed new life into this piece. And so, when you're thinking about the other pieces in Fantasia, I think for me, The Sorcerer's Apprentice is the one that feels the most particular to Disney, and it feels like it is given the most life by its association with the visuals. And so that's why that would be my pick as opposed to any of the other amazing classical classics in Fantasia. Yeah.
Well said. I've always been struck that it's the one that most closely fits. It's like it most feels like it was designed for that short.
Yes. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Like you can't imagine it being like anything else. Like there are parts that feel so like when the water is swirling and the music is matching it, you're like, how was this written to score this scene originally? Like how did they retrofit that in? It's just incredible.
Well, what we have to remember is that there's three kinds of music in Fantasia, and it fits the kind that tells a definite story. So I think Dukas was taking from the legend, and so when he was writing The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and without The Sorcerer's Apprentice, we wouldn't have Fantasia because this was sort of a boost for Mickey Mouse's popularity, and eventually ran over budget, and they just decided to make a feature, the concert feature.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. When I was a kid, I thought that he always wore the wizard outfit, and I thought that he always had the little hat. And then I realized that was not the case. But I think it is just so iconic. I'm very glad to have adapted.
Phenomenal pick. All right, so that was round 8. We have 3 rounds left. We've done 1 wild card. That was pre-1960. Now we are on to 1960 to 2000. This is a hefty range. So I think we're all going to get good picks here. But any song from 1960 to 2000 that has not yet been picked, Zev, it's up to you.
All right. So I thought about stealing Cruella de Vil away from Dan, but I am not going to do that. I promise I will not do that. I will choose from the same era a song written by Robert Sherman and Richard Sherman, the Sherman brothers, from 1967's The Jungle Book, I Want to Be Like You, sung by King Louis, voiced by Louis Prima, and Phil Harris, who's the voice of Baloo. Such a fun number. The wordplay is wonderful. I think and the role, I think they offered it to Louis Prima. I think the role was written for Louis Prima. I mean, he came in with his band, and they did a lot of playing and improv. And so what you see in the movie, I think, is sort of the animator sort of photographing Louis Prima and his band just having a blast in the studio. And they got Phil Harris in there, who did his own thing. And it really works wonderfully. Marvelous song.
Some of those jazzy Jungle Book numbers are just so good, so catchy. Great pick. Brian, on to you. 1960 to 2000.
Well, I should probably take Colors of the Wind because that's like a pretty high profile one that's not been claimed yet. I already have a Pocahontas in my mix, so I kind of want to take a Robin Hood. I'm going to go with Not in Nottingham from Robin Hood, the sad in-prison song, mostly because there's a guy on YouTube who did a really, really good cover of it that I like. But I'm going with that one, Not in Nottingham.
I can't even place that one in my head. It's been a while since I've seen Robin Hood.
It's the one where they're all in shackles because they couldn't pay the, like, double, triple taxes.
Surely that couldn't happen in the wonderful land of Nottingham. All right. Yeah, man, this time range is so fertile. I really wanted to have something from Aladdin in mind because I really like the music in Aladdin, but I'm seeing my chance now to get Beauty and the Beast, and it's got to be that. Just like it really, really makes me cry, like very reliably. Something about the steadiness of the background and the lyrics, certain as the sun rising in the east. It's just like kind of self-aware as well, like the fact that it's saying tale as old as time and reflecting on the fact that like throughout age after age people return to similar stories. I think just kind of hits me in the heart. So yeah, Beauty and the Beast.
One of the things I really love about Beauty and the Beast, the movie, that you see in some of what you just said about the song, is that it really does feel like a classic fairy tale, like from the old times, but it also feels more modern. Like it doesn't feel like it has some of that old crustiness, almost like weight, heftiness to it that is almost inhuman that you sometimes get in fairy tales. It's such like a vivacious story.
Yes.
Great pick.
One thing to note that's so impressive about the song is that I think every single phrase has the exact same amount of syllables. I think every phrase is a five syllable phrase. If you think about it, I think that they continue that through the rest of the song.
Oh my gosh!
The precision. And now we have "You're a Star" from Wish. Sorry, it's fine.
How far we've fallen.
It's still on the board. It could fit in the next category. I throw something to every warning sign, caution to every warning sign.
Throw caution to every warning sign. Oh, that's from This Wish, though.
Oh, sorry, wrong one. My mistake.
I do think This Wish is much more AI generated feeling than You're a Star. Like, because I don't think AI could come up with something as deranged as when it comes to the universe where all shareholders get that through your system. Solar. It's pure human madness. Anyway.
Steven had a marvelous time just ripping that movie apart.
Yeah. That one got a thorough flogging on the alternate ending forum.
It did.
Yeah, I mean, I almost didn't even include this category originally, 1960 to 2000, just because like it's all of the Disney Renaissance. It's also like about half of the Silver Age. So you just have an utter abundance of music, and like I almost want to challenge myself not to pick a Disney Renaissance song. Like just because I grew up with them doesn't mean that they're the best, but also I think they're the best. So I'm going to pick one. And there's like just two absolute like all timers, like top 10 overall, maybe for me. And that's Be Our Guest and Under the Sea. And I think I have to go with Under the Sea, just getting the edge on that one. I mean, Under the Sea, like just when you think of tropical music, it's Under the Sea. It's got the steel drums. It's got the Caribbean accent from who does the voice? What's that guy's name?
Samuel Wright.
There you go. And it's just an absolute joy of a song about how great it is to live in the ocean. And it's like, goddamn, now I want to go live in the ocean. Like, okay, I was with you when you were singing Part of Your World and you want to be out there doing your own thing. But now I also want to be under the sea, too. Just like all these exciting instrumental stuff going on in the background. Man, absolute masterpiece as far as I'm concerned of a song. So Under the Sea is my pick.
The ending of that song is so good, how he like plays out I don't know, he continues like the rhythm, so I guess like reiterates like instead of just finishing it, there's that bit where he goes, that's why it's hotter under the water, Yahweh and luck here, down in the muck here under the sea. And all of that stuff is like an extension of the same rhythm before it. So they're just making you wait and wait and wait for the resolution. So when it finally comes, you're like, yeah. Oh, that's so good.
And so now we're to perhaps the most fallow era. Oh, there's some good ones though, and that's post 2000. So Brian, you actually get first dibs on this one, a song from post 2000.
Okay. Yeah, this is obviously the shortest span of time, just because we've only had 24 years since 2000, but even that seems like a lot.
Well, you know what, Brian? We had 24 years of Disney movies pre-1960, because wasn't 37 the first one?
Oh, very well said. Insightful. But I have a pretty solid one that I want for this category, and it's When Can I See You Again, the credits song from Wreck-It Ralph. I think credits song could have been its whole own category. Obviously, you get a lot of
Yes.
like R&B covers of songs that had previously been in the movie.
I thought about
Not
it.
so in this case. This is an original to the credits. And it's by Owl City.
Oh my gosh, is it actually? That's incredible.
Yeah, and just I really like the credits sequence where they're like progressing through levels from many different eras of video games as the names are scrolling by. And you get like a whole bunch of different animation styles in the pixel graphics.
Uh, I'll admit, this is not one that has ever stuck out to me. I want to go back and re-listen to it now. I like Owl City. Big middle school vibes.
They did an overhaul at the Disney parks of the Main Street Electrical Parade around like 2013 and heavily featured this music in the like electro synth. It was like the little transition that would go between the different scenes is like the original Main Street Electrical Parade music, which is called Baroque Hoedown, but like interwoven with When Can I See You Again? And very good choice on the part of the arrangers.
You said Owl City is middle school vibes, Riognach, and I wasn't in middle school when they were making music, but I still get middle school vibes from them. I say them, it's him, it's one
Yeah,
guy.
it's that dude. It's so whimsical, you know? Yeah, you would not believe your eyes.
And just kind of corny too. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But in a great way. I like him. Okay. I did not think I would get this lucky. I assumed if anyone was before me, I would lose Let It Go from Frozen, but it's mine. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, the song is so good. It's so good. Even though it is just Defying Gravity, like there's a reason that song is also great. The bridge is so awesome. Like those kind of chopped out chords. My power flurries from the air into the ground. And like the way the strings like chug along and then just like hold when she is doing the I'm never going back, the past is in the past, like just an unbelievable build into the last chorus. The song is an all-timer. It's amazing.
I agree for the record. I mean, I think it's an all-timer too. Saying something's just Defying Gravity, let's not be so dismissive, you know? But I actually think if you ever go read about the production of Frozen, like Let It Go was a really important number for them because, I mean, the Lopez's kind of like back in the day with Ashman were like really involved with crafting the story of Frozen as much as they were the music. And they were like really stumped on the Elsa character and like, is Elsa the villain? What's going on with Elsa? And then like they wrote this song and they like, oh, this everything falls into place. I mean, to the extent that you think that story works, I know some people are kind of medium on that story, but like having her be the outcast who can't quite figure out how she fits into society, and that's what kind of lets some of her villainous aspects kind of come out, is just such a key character insight to what Elsa ended up being.
Yeah. Yeah, that tracks. I mean, I have some issues with Frozen's story. I think think actually it's Tim Brayton's review that says that the crucial issue with Frozen is that Elsa is the more interesting character, but the story is about Anna. I think even some of that could have been fixed if they had made Anna, like, if they'd given her a character flaw. Like, right now, she has this sort of quirky, bubbly girl personality, and it sort of veers into a flaw where, like, she is a bit naive and could be taken advantage of, but, like, immediately she's separated from the person who tried to take advantage of her. And then it mostly becomes like a traditional love story. So, like, I think there were ways to make the Frozen story a bit more compelling, but that number is such a banger. Dan, I'm curious, are you going to be picking something from Frozen 2?
So I really like Frozen 2's score.
Yeah, I know you're a Frozen 2 stan. That's why I ask.
I am. And I actually was just going to say, I almost want to pick a Frozen 2 number just to like stick up for Frozen 2. I don't really have a distinct favorite Frozen 2 song. I have a couple of them. Whereas like Let It Go is definitely my favorite Frozen 1 song. Oh boy, this is tough. I should have foreseen that I wouldn't get it. Because I was thinking of doing I See the Light, but then Brian took that. Like I could go the obvious route of recent history and pick We Don't Talk About Bruno, which I do think is pretty fun and terrific. But
Oh, there's also Moana.
there's Moana. But I'm actually going to go with Ma Belle Evangeline from Princess and the Frog. There's a lot of good numbers there, but that one is the one that always took my heart. I actually thought about it in the romance category. If I was assuming I was going to have to pick that because there's no way A Whole New World was going to fall to me at the last slot, and yes, it did. Yet it did. So I'll just go ahead and pick it here, just to do a slight curveball when there's still some good ones out there. But I think it's a beautiful number sung by Jim Cummings. It's a firefly singing about how he's in love with a star that like represents his ideal version of what he would be in love with. And then spoilers at the end, he dies and then he goes and becomes the star right next to Evangeline. And I gotta say, it's like touching side character endings that get me more than protagonists in the Disney movies. Like one of my favorite Disney moments, period, is at the end of Hercules when they say, "That's Phil's boy," and then he gets a tear in his eye. But yeah, I'm gonna go with My Belle Evangeline. So Zev, on to you.
So I almost went with When Will My Life Begin from Tangled. I thought about it.
So good.
But so good. And it's difficult. It is difficult to sing. It does require a lot of leaps and a big range to sing that. We have not heard from Lin-Manuel Miranda yet, I don't think, on this list. So I am gonna pick a Moana song, "How Far I'll Go," which is probably my favorite. No, it's far and away my favorite song in the movie. I think it is. I mean, I've had to play it in many a music lesson, but in just looking at it, it has such a really nice, accessible melody, and I think it's probably my favorite thing that Lin-Manuel has done for Disney. Probably, I think I like it more than most of the other Moana songs, and also probably most of the Encanto soundtrack too. I think I'm trying to pinpoint as to why I like that one as much as I do, but I also really like its reprise. It kind of has. Lindsay Ellis did a video talking about Pocahontas, and she bridged Moana and Pocahontas, and they both have a scene with their grandmother, and whereas the Pocahontas scene is a little more. She's more like talking down to her. The grandmother in Moana is sort of talking with her, and they do a reprise of How Far I'll Go that just lands so deep. It just hits so hard. And at the end, she just goes, "I am Moana," and it just soars. Love it.
Why are reprises always so good? Like the B version is always, I feel like it hits a little even harder than the initial one. I don't know.
When I was in college, I took a weightlifting class, and they said that if you do a second set, not just a first set, if you do a second set of a round of weightlifting, then like you actually get like 75% more muscle growth. And I've always thought about that with reprises. It's like Okay, you're taking the same idea and doing it again. So like, why should it be that much richer? And yet it always is. It always, if you have a reprise with a slightly new context and slightly new emotional growth and emotional punch to it, it just makes it so much richer. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the whole, if the original one was yearning and the second one is wistful, then you feel them both at the same time and you feel the absence of the first one. And yeah, it's so great to see composers playing with things that like they've already set up for themselves. Like they make the rules and then they get to break them.
Composers are talented people. Isn't that right, Zev? And Riognach. All right, so now we're on wildcard non-Walt Disney Animation Studio. So if you want to talk about an embarrassment of riches, this is obviously it, because all of Pixar, all of live action Disney, anything that didn't fit into the Walt Disney Animation Studio canon, any Disney Toon song, which is their B studio, any Disney Channel original movie. And if you want to be aggressive, again, to the Anastasia point made earlier, you could really be aggressive on like what you want to pull in here. I have a curveball I don't think I'm going to do, but I want to make the case for. Let's say you can pick one and then you can shout out up to 3 others as you go.
Cool. That's great. It is an incredibly stacked category. My top 4 are going to be Remember Me from Coco, Once Upon a December from Anastasia, My Lullaby from The Lion King 2, which is such a good villain song, and the lyrics are so vicious, and Married Life from Up.
Ba-da-da-da. So good.
Yeah.
Is that, how do you say his name? I don't know how you pronounce it.
Michael Giacchino.
Giacchino? Okay.
I think it's Giacchino, yeah.
He's so good.
Man, everything he touches turns to gold. If I had not known that we could pick Anastasia, it would have been Married Life 100%. Once that came on at a party and I just like started misting up and I like dove for the iPhone, like I have to, like this cannot be on at this party right now. No, I'm gonna pick Once Upon a December. It's mine. Yeah.
There you go. Do we want to impose the limitation that it must have originally been a Disney song and not just owned by Disney now?
I don't think so. I think the floodgates are open.
Okay. Floodgates are open. Okay, we're going with
If
it.
somebody wants to pick the Star Wars theme.
Well, that's my curveball pick. That is my curveball pick.
Oh my
The
god.
title crawl for Star Wars. So I actually just watched Star Wars with my 2 daughters for the first time.
Did they love it?
So we're halfway through it, and we stopped after the trash compactor, and they both said it's a scary movie. And I think it's because we stopped there. But they're into it, so we're gonna finish it this weekend. But
Amazing.
I mean, I think it's a cliche, but Star Wars, and I guess by extension the entire series, but mainly Star Wars, the first one, Episode 4, is like maybe my favorite orchestral score. They say with John Williams, like when you first ever hear music, you're like, oh, John Williams is the greatest. And then like when you get a little bit into movies, you get a little snooty and you're like, oh, John Williams, he's like too romantic, too expressive. You need to go with the edgier stuff. And then like as you start to hear a whole lot of music, you're like, oh yeah, actually John Williams is like a freaking certified genius who does it better than anyone else in some ways.
He literally is still doing it better than everybody else.
So that's one of my 4. I'll call out Stand Out from a Goofy movie. I mean, honestly, any banger from a Goofy movie, which is to say literally any song from a Goofy movie. But Stand Out was like extremely formative on like me as a person, like more than anything else that's listed here, probably. Like my vision of what does it mean to be a teen rebel who like goes out there and makes some grand statement about yourself was like from me watching a Goofy movie. And then Carrying the Banner, which like from Newsies, which is like, I'm gonna make a bold claim that is one of Alan Menken's best songs ever. It's this like 7-minute suite of like all these different styles, huge ensemble, introducing the world, introducing these characters, this absolutely soaring chorus. Shout out to my buddy Colton who turned me on to this, and Brian too. He got us into Newsies about 10 years ago. But again, at the risk of going too canonical, I'm going to pick a song that actually Brian got me excited about. And I have like since kind of embraced it as like an all-time masterpiece. And that is Feed the Birds from Mary Poppins, which is just an absolute stunner by the Sherman Brothers. Walt Disney said it was his favorite song in any of his movies. I think there's reason for it. It's just this story about this woman who feeds the birds next to a church and how like all the saints smile down on this little act of kindness with this like just will melt your heart, this minor key melody. Absolutely perfect all-timer ballad. Feed the Birds, tuppence a bag.
Now that you've mentioned that one, I'm like, man, Dan should have picked that one. No offense, Star Wars, but Feed the Birds is amazing.
Well, which is your official pick? That's that one, right?
That's what I'm going with. Feed the Birds is my official pick.
Oh, it is. I thought you were picking Star Wars. Okay.
No, that's my curveball nominee that I thought about. And, you know, I know we only said 4, but like Cruisin' for a Bruisin' from Teen Beach Movie. I'm sorry, it slaps.
I just saw that for the first time a couple of months ago.
Really?
This is a good movie.
I'm crazy about Teen Beach Movie. You don't want to get me started on Teen Beach Movie. But Feed the Birds is my pick. All right. Zev, on to you.
Well, I was going to say I didn't think we were going to touch Mary Poppins, but I'll have the entire Mary Poppins soundtrack as an honorable mention because I can't choose just one. I think every single song in that movie is just a certified banger. So I got my song pick and I got my film score pick.
Awesome.
And they're both from Pixar. And they're both Pixar. So my film score pick, I'm going to do that one first, is Define Dancing from WALL-E, composed by Thomas Newman. It's just that perfect, wonderful sequence of them just going around and when the engines rev up on the ship. Oh, so super sweet. And then but if we're going to with my song pick, if it's not You've Got a Friend in Me, come on, man. I thought about When She Loved Me, but I also have Baby Mine. And I'm like, no, I can't do both.
Too many tears.
That's just like nuclear warfare. No, You've Got a Friend in Me. I think it's such a smart song. It's such an elegant song. And and Randy Newman writes chords in a way that nobody else really does. It's so definitively Randy Newman. Mm-hmm. And it just draws you right into the world of Toy Story in a way that I can't imagine anything else doing.
God, just an embarrassment of riches in this category. There's so much good music out there. It's such a good pick.
Yeah, this category by far was my longest short list. I got like 15 things on here. I'm really glad that you shouted out Newsies and Mary Poppins. My top 4 that I was considering. So, at number 4, When Somebody Loved Me from Toy Story 2. Classic Pixar, you're making me cry moment.
I mean, like, the prototypical one, too.
Arguably the first, yeah. Depending on how much the flying one in Toy Story 1 punches you in the gut. I Will Go Sailing No More. That one has stuck out to me more in subsequent years, just than it did before. I used to think When Somebody Loved Me, that was the first sad thing that they did, but arguable. Number 3, I've got Stand Out from A Goofy Movie. I didn't want to rob you of that, but it's a really good one. I love the line, if the squeaky wheels always get in the grease, I'm totally devoted to disturbing the peace. Number 2, Someday, the recurring love ballad from the Zombies trilogy. Gotta bring that into the conversation.
What a deep cut.
But the one that I'm officially picking is the opener from Nightmare Before Christmas, This Is Halloween, from Touchstone Pictures.
Oh, nice.
Great pick. Everyone you were saying, I was nodding along, and anyone who's listened to the goods consistently would not have been surprised by Brian shouting out Someday. We talk about the zombies movies way too much, but no. Awesome stuff. Well, now we did it. We made it through 44 Disney songs. You know what? Real quick, I'll just read through the ones that we picked, and then we can call it an evening and we can get the votes out there to see who did the best job picking. But I think we're all winners. I think we all did a good job. There's no one I'm like looking at and shaking my head on their picks. Everyone is distinctly their own, but also just like objectively great of all the picks that we have. But for the openers, Brian picked Belle, Riognach picked Bells of Notre Dame. I picked When You Wish Upon a Star. Zev picked Circle of Life. For the villain song, Zev picked Poor Unfortunate Souls. I picked Gaston. Riognach picked Mother Knows Best, both parts. And Brian picked Hellfire. For side character song, Riognach picked I'll Make a Man Out of You. I picked Hi Ho. Zev picked Friend Like Me. Brian picked The Most Wonderful Thing About Tiggers. For I Want songs, I picked Part of Your World. Zev picked Out There. Brian picked Go the Distance. Riognach picked The Reprise specifically from Belle. For romance, Zev picked Bella Notte. Brian picked I See the Light. Riognach picked Once Upon a Dream. I picked A Whole New World. For oddity, Brian picked March of the Cards. Riognach picked Oodalali. I picked Rumbly and My Tumbly. And Zev picked Hi Diddly Dee. For duet ensemble, Riognach picked I Won't Say I'm in Love. I picked Hakuna Matata. Zev picked Something There. Brian picked Savages. For wildcard from pre-1960, I picked A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes. Zev picked Baby Mine. Brian picked Little April Showers. Riognach picked The Sorcerer's Apprentice. For wildcard 1960 to 2000, Zev picked I Want to Be Like You. Brian picked Not in Nottingham. Riognach picked Beauty and the Beast, and I picked Under the Sea. For wildcard post-2000, Brian picked When Can I See You Again? Riognach picked Let It Go. I picked Belle, Evangeline. Zev picked How Far I'll Go. And for the wild card, non-Walt Disney Animation Studios, but still Disney category, I'll just pick our actual official selections. Riognach picked Once Upon a December. I picked Feed the Birds. Because he's a composer, we allowed Zev to pick both a score and a song. He picked Define Dancing and You've Got a Friend in Me. And Brian picked This Is Halloween. So there we go.
Wait, I just realized you did not, and Dan, you did not pick Cruella de Vil for your wild card 1960 to 2000.
No, I mean...
So is it, are we locking these in, or is it not too late to switch?
Oh, so you want to go in and take Cruella de Vil instead of I Want to Be Like You?
I'm thinking about it, but I'm like, is that cheating? Can I still do that?
Well, what I'll say is... Well, you know what? I guess anyone that round could have picked Cruella de Vil. So, could have picked I Want to Be Like You had you not picked it. So, who knows what dominoes it might have set off? Like, maybe it's like a butterfly effect thing, you know? No, I'm just kidding. But you know what, dude? If you want to go for it, I can plug it back in there. If you want to follow your heart.
Go with God.
Yay or nay?
Let's see. Is it okay?
It's in.
I'm okay with it.
Cruella de Vil. There it is.
All right, let's switch it. Let's switch it out. As much as I love I Want to Be Like You, it's just Cruella de Vil is just such a fun. It's one of
So jaunty.
One of the great Disney earworms, and it's just so deviously funny.
Terrific. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Dan.
Alrighty. Well, guys, this was really fun. It was an experiment for us. It was against my nature to lock us into category order. I think it ended up being the right choice. It made the discussion flow well. I think this was a fun exercise, and I thank you guys very much for joining me with your good opinions and your companionship.
I think we nailed it. Thank you guys so much for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good picks, everybody. Good discussion. I was glad to meet you both.
So good to meet you.
Good to meet you guys, and thank you. This was awesome.
Thank you. Alrighty. Talk to you guys later.
Cool.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.